In a small African village nestled between rolling hills and whispering trees, there lived a woman named Adana. She was known for her laughter that could shake the leaves off the trees and a heart as vast as the savannah itself. But Adana carried a burden heavier than the baobab tree in the village center. She was very fat, so much so that the village men often whispered and chuckled behind her back. Adana's days were filled with the warmth of the sun and the company of women who loved her dearly. They would sit under the shade of the acacia tree, weaving baskets and sharing stories. But when the men passed by, their laughter would follow, like a distant thunderstorm threatening the peace. One day, as Adana sat mending a brightly colored cloth, her friend Nala approached with a mischievous glint in her eye. "Adana, my dear, why do you let those men bother you so?" she asked, her voice gentle but firm. Adana sighed, her fingers deftly moving over the fabric. "They think my size is a curse, Nala. They laugh because they cannot see beyond what their eyes tell them." Nala nodded thoughtfully. "Perhaps they are blind to the treasure that lies within you." Adana looked up, curious. "What do you mean, Nala?" Nala smiled and leaned closer, her voice barely a whisper. "I've heard tales of a wise elder who lives beyond the hills," she said. "They say he holds the secret to seeing with more than just our eyes." Adana's heart skipped a beat. Could this elder truly help her? She decided to find out. The next morning, with the sun rising like a golden crown over the village, Adana set out on her journey. The path was rugged, winding through tall grasses and across babbling brooks. But Adana was determined, fueled by a hope that burned brighter than the noonday sun. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of walking, she arrived at the elder's hut. The old man greeted her with a warm smile and eyes that twinkled with ancient wisdom. "Welcome, child," he said kindly. "What brings you to me?" Adana took a deep breath and told him her story, of laughter and loneliness, of the weight she carried both in body and in heart. The elder listened intently, his face a mask of understanding. When she finished, he nodded thoughtfully. "Ah, my dear," he said softly, "the problem is not with you, but with those who cannot see beyond the surface. Let me show you how to open their eyes." For days and nights, the elder taught Adana the secrets of the heart and the power of perception. He showed her how to weave words into songs that danced with joy and laughter. He taught her to see the world not just with her eyes, but with her heart. Armed with this newfound wisdom, Adana returned to her village. The men still whispered and chuckled as she passed by, but something had changed. Instead of shrinking away, she met their laughter with a smile as bright as the morning sun. She sang songs that spoke of love and courage, weaving stories that touched the deepest parts of their souls. Slowly, like the first drops of rain after a long drought, the laughter began to fade. The men listened, their hearts stirred by the beauty of her spirit. They saw Adana not as a woman defined by her size, but as a beacon of light in their village. And then, one day, a young man named Kwame approached Adana with a humble heart and eyes that sparkled with admiration. "Will you walk with me, Adana?" he asked, his voice filled with sincerity. Adana looked into his eyes, seeing beyond the surface to the kindness and courage within. With a smile that could melt the hardest stone, she took his hand. And as they walked together beneath the acacia tree, the village whispered not of her size, but of the love that had blossomed like the wildflowers in the fields. From that day on, Adana's laughter echoed through the village, a melody of hope and acceptance. And as for the men who once laughed and joked, they became her staunchest allies, their hearts forever changed by the woman they had once misunderstood. For in a small African village, where the sun kisses the earth and the wind carries the stories of old, Adana taught them all that true beauty lies not in the eyes, but in the depths of the soul.